unmatched and unrivaled anywhere in the world.
Sorry, guys, I'm going to rewind. We didn't have audio there. Going back.
World by far.
Starts it off with a lie.
Testing, but maybe what his predecessor
what else is
had
new?
about
Okay, here we go.
how he's going about this process.
Hey, Lizzie. Hey, Kathleen.
Provide an update on the unprecedented testing capacity developed by the United States, the most advanced and
We're about
robust
30
testing
seconds
system
behind.
anywhere in the world by far. This afternoon, I'll also announce new steps that we're taking to make tests even more widely available. To battle the virus, my administration marshaled every resource at our nation's disposal: public, private, military, economic, scientific, and industrial, all at your disposal. We launched the largest manufacturing ramp-up since the Second World War. There's been nothing like it since. At the center of this industrial and scientific mobilization was the development of our coronavirus testing capabilities.
Hi, Yoga.
In the span of just a few short months, we've developed a testing capacity unmatched and unrivaled anywhere in the world, and it's not even close. This is a core element of our plan to safely and gradually reopen America, and we're opening and we're starting, and there's enthusiasm like I haven't seen in a long time.
Hey, Chris.
Every American should be proud of the amazing array of talent, skill, and enterprise our nation has brought to this challenge.
That's a lot of flags.
In 3 months, the
Highest
FDA
American
has
flags per
authorized
capita
more than 92
on the
different
planet.
tests, and over 9 million have been performed here in the United States. 3 weeks ago, we were conducting roughly 150,000 tests per day.
Way too
Now
late.
we're doing approximately 300,000 tests per day.
Not enough.
100% increase, and it will go up substantially from that number.
Hold on.
This week, the United States will pass 10 million tests.
Did I get that?
150,000 tests per day.
Okay, no, he got it
in the other
right.
country. We're testing more people per capita than South Korea, the United Kingdom, France, Japan, Sweden, Finland, and many other countries, and in some
He
cases
just named
combined.
all of them.
On Friday, the FDA authorized
And in some cases
coronavirus
combined?
antigen tests,
What does that even
an alternative
mean?
testing technology that can be much more readily manufactured.
More tests per capita than a bunch of other countries, and in some case combined. So if you took 2, 3, 4, 5... No, we're not doing more tests than all other countries combined, but that's not what he said. But what he said means absolutely nothing. It's just verbal kitty litter.
Quidel Corporation,
Hey, Linda.
which makes this newly authorized point-of-care test, estimates that it will be able to manufacture 150,000 tests per day, immediately increasing to 300,000 tests per day within just a few weeks. To further expand our nation's testing capabilities, this afternoon I am announcing that my administration we've got this all approved, it's all done.
My administration
is sending
is
$1 billion to America's states, territories, and tribes. So this has all been approved. We've gotten it done, completed. The money is going out. This major investment will ensure that America continues to conduct more tests than any country on earth by far. I said from the beginning that the federal government would back up the states and help them build their testing capability and capacities, and that's exactly what's happened. This partnership has truly flourished. We have really had a very good relationship with the states and the governors and other representatives within the states, a relationship like I think I can honestly say has not been seen in this country for many, many years. The governors and us are working together very closely, not only on testing, but on ventilators, where we have a capacity that's, at this point, virtually unlimited. And we're sending ventilators, as you probably heard from other countries. We're sending many, many thousands of ventilators to other countries because they're in tremendous need. And
What
I
does
think
that mean,
building up
unlimited
a lot
capacity of
goodwill,
ventilators?
But much more
That's not-
importantly than
that's
that,
not
we're
a thing.
saving a lot of lives. Most states are now doing a great job. My administration located 5,000 machines in 700 labs across all 50 states, and governors have learned how to maximize these testing resources. The federal government is also supporting states with vital supplies, quick approvals of new tests, and one-on-one coaching from the team here at the White House on how to increase capacity and increase it very quickly. In recent weeks, we've held multiple conference calls with every state, as well as with D.C. and Puerto Rico. We jointly developed testing projections and goals for each state for the month of May, altogether totaling 12.9 million tests. Think of that, 12.9 million tests. Today, I'm announcing that my administration will provide the collection supplies to help states meet their targets and meet them rapidly. During the month of May, FEMA and HHS will be delivering 12.9 million swabs to states nationwide. We already have them. The delivery will be very...
Today, we're announcing that we're going to help the states with the supplies that they... Today, it's May, 57th? That time doesn't mean anything. But anyway, today, after 80,000 dead Americans, states, we got your back.
Very quick. We're prepared to provide millions of additional swabs if any state is on a pace to surpass its goal. And their goals are very high. We've set them very high. We've told them to set them very high. My administration will also provide approximately 9 million transport media, which are used to transfer swabs to the lab processing, a complicated process, but we've made it simple. As a result of these actions, every single state will be able to test more people per capita in May alone than South Korea has tested in 4 months since the outbreak began. This major commitment is possible because of the mass...
Okay, I just got to say what nonsense that is. South Korea tested a lot before we were testing at all, and they've been able to not have to keep doing so many tests because they've contained the virus until just recently. In fact, just a few days ago, a 29-year-old went out to a nightclub in South Korea, and then he went to another nightclub, and then another night, and then another nightclub, as nightclubbers do, because, you know, nightclubs are a necessity. That one coronavirus case has now infected 80 cases in South Korea, but they're handling it, and they're going to lock it down. So, anyway, we don't, you know, when was the last time somebody called you and told you that you'd been in contact with a coronavirus? It's, and when we do, we just put on a mask and we go right back to work at the White House. Anyway, so South Korea has not, let's take a look actually. South Korea has very few tests per capita because they haven't had to. They controlled the virus to begin with. They contained it rather than mitigating it. Let's find South Korea here. Here we go. So South Korea, they took off. By the time we were doing 3,000 tests, they were doing 180,000 tests. All this time, the U.S. was doing nothing because we developed a test that didn't work under Trump. Let's take a look at them here. Right now, we're doing 2688 per 100,000. So let's say 26, and then we go over to South Korea, 1,200. So for states to get above 1,200 per capita is nothing. That's the low bar. They've contained it, but it's already in the states. Moving on.
Of American industry, including Puritan Medical Products, U.S. Cotton, Abbott Labs, and Thermo Fisher. Some of these incredible companies produced rapidly for us, and their products are here with us this afternoon. These are all different products that were literally just developed. And if you can imagine that, and these are the best machines and the best equipment anywhere in the world, and other countries are calling us, and we're trying to work as much as we can, not only on ventilators, but also with testing. My administration also continues our tireless effort to expand testing in the most underserved communities. Through our partnership with the private sector, leading pharmacies and retailers are now operating over 240 testing sites across the country, and that's in addition to all of the other sites that we have working. 70% of these sites are located in communities with unique vulnerabilities.
Remember, he promised thousands of drive-through sites.
There will be more than 300 sites by the end of this
February?
week, and retailers are making plans to open up hundreds and hundreds more locations within the next 30 days. These additional sites are helping us ensure access to testing in every community. My administration is fighting relentlessly to protect all citizens of every color and creed from this terrible virus, the invisible enemy. In addition to vast amounts of testing supplies, my administration has partnered with the private sector to coordinate the delivery of more than 90 million N95 masks, and these are of the highest quality. Many are made right here in the United States, a capacity we didn't have at all at the beginning. 126 million.
Just so you know, the N95 is the standard. That's 95 particulate matter. There's no low quality. There's defective masks. I mean, you can have some defective masks, and after a time they expire. But the one N95 here, same as the other N95 over there. It's not. He doesn't have the best N95 mask. It's a standard.
Million surgical masks, likewise, many are made here. 9 million face shields, 21 million surgical gowns,
Chris, that's his glory hole.
993 million gloves, and 10,690 ventilators. We're building thousands of ventilators in numerous plants all across our country. It's incredible, actually. This global pandemic has inflicted great pain and hardship on our people. It should have never been allowed to happen. It should have been stopped at the source.
Yes, this is what I've been saying.
We mourn for every life the virus has claimed, and
South
we
Korea
share the
stopped it.
grief of all of you who've
New Zealand
lost
stopped it.
a loved one, and that goes worldwide, too. Many, many countries.
Oh, it's show and tell
184
day.
countries at least. Thanks to the courage of our citizens and
187.
our aggressive strategy, hundreds of thousands of lives have been saved. And we have saved, and if you look at on a per 100,000 basis, we're at the best part of the pack, right on the bottom. Germany and us are leading the world. Germany and the United States are leading the world. Lives saved per 100,000. In every generation, through every
What does that
challenge and
even
hardship
mean?
and danger, America has risen to the task.
If you look at the chart, there's Germany and the most lives saved wearing red hats on Tuesdays. We're right second, and it's not even close.
We have met the moment, and we have prevailed. Americans do whatever it takes to find solutions, pioneer breakthroughs, and harness the energies we need to achieve a total victory. Day after day, we're making tremendous strides with the dedication of our doctors and nurses. These are incredible people. These are brave people. These are warriors. With the devotion of our manufacturing workers, food suppliers, and lab technicians, and with the profound patriotism of the American people, we will defeat this horrible enemy. We will revive our economy, and we will transition into greatness.
Hey, Rich.
That's
hey, Jay.
a phrase you're going to hear
hey, Robin.
a lot, because that's what's going to happen. We're going into the third quarter, and we're going to do well.
And then we're having the election,
do very good,
which I will lose, and we will transition to greatness.
Because there's a tremendous pent-up demand. It's a demand, and I'm feeling it. I've felt things a lot over my life, and
he's feeling pent
I've
up.
made a lot of good calls. It's a demand like I don't think I've ever seen. There's a pent-up demand. There's a spirit in this country like few have seen. And I think you
raise your hand if you're going to a movie next month.
The countries, a lot, really a lot.
Hey, Jay,
There's
you're Canadian.
There's a tremendous spirit all over the world.
You say grade 5
to beat this terrible, terrible thing.
I'm guessing you're Canadian, Jay. I think you are, but yeah, I've had to say to people, oh yeah, when I was in grade 9, sometimes I would play hockey and people are like, what? And then I have to say to Americans, sorry, 9th grade. And then they're like, oh, and then they go vote for Trump.
But we're transitioning to greatness, and the greatness is going to be in the fourth quarter, but it's really going to be next year, and it's going to be a year like
the election is in the fourth quarter.
I really believe that.
Next year.
As good as we've done, and we've done great. We had the best economy in the history of the world, not just here, but anywhere in the world. You can talk China, you can talk any other country. We had the best economy anywhere in the world, and we were
2.1% GDP, contraction of the manufacturing sector. Job growth was slowing. Wage growth was slowing. We did not have the best economy in the history of the world.
We're going for numbers, whether it was unemployment numbers, where we had our best numbers. Employment also numbers, a little different, where we had our best numbers, almost 160 million people. All of that, we had the greatest stock market numbers ever. I think we had 142 days where we set records. In a short period of time, 152 days, we set records in the stock market. We rebuilt our military.
It was 144, it was 150. Like, what does it matter? Like, every day is another record, and then that's a record. Obama's stock market set records, I don't care how many times.
All built in the United States. All of our equipment built, $1.5 trillion plus.
Unreal.
On the southern border, the wall is being built. It's being built
everyone's got a
rapidly, and
mask
now
on
you
now.
don't hear the opponents talking too much about
Except
the
Trump.
border. They don't like to talk about it because it seemed that we were right on
Is
a
that
lot
Jared
of things.
or
One of the
Jack
things we were
Skeleton in
right
the front?
about, one of the many things was the border. We have a very powerful border now. We had one of the best weeks in the history of our border
We
between
got
the
both
United
Rich and
States
Rick in
Mexico,
here.
our southern border.
Mackie and Mac.
We had very few people coming in, very, very few,
Keep it
almost record
straight
low
amongst
numbers.
yourselves.
And the wall is being built. It's up to 181 miles already. It's being built. It's being built rapidly. People don't talk about it anymore because
You do.
it's very successful. And the area where the wall
People don't talk about the wall anymore because, well, there's just not very many people left.
has built, that is a lot still, but we want to be up to 450 by a very short period of time. Early next year, we should be up to 450, and very shortly after that, over 500 miles to be completed. But it's had a tremendous impact. But again, we've had the best numbers. The last thing we want now with this pandemic is for people to come across our southern border. And again, we're doing record numbers, meaning record low numbers. So I just want to thank everybody, and I want to introduce Admiral Guar. If you could, please come up, and Brad, if you would, Brad Smith. And they're going to do a little
The Admiral is the guy who told us we'd have 27 million tests by the end of March.
explaining as to what we've done with regard to testing and how successful it's been.
You guys want to
And then
skip
we'll
through
take
these
some
guys? We're a
questions
few
after
minutes
that.
behind.
Thank you very much.
If I hear three people say skip
Well,
them,
thank
we'll
you, Mr.
jump
President,
over these.
for your leadership and for your high expectations that really made this all come together, and for the uniform support of everyone in the White House and the administration. And thank you, Secretary Azar, for providing his leadership at HHS and allowing both Brad and I the opportunity to work on this project. I think it's clear that America does lead the world in testing. I'll go through some of the charts that show that we
The
lead
most tests?
quantitatively.
Oh,
I will
okay.
also suggest that we lead in the diversity of tests.
Hold on,
which
I
are
wanna see a
very
couple of these
important
charts.
to
I'm sorry,
establish
guys.
the testing ecosystem
Okay.
to keep America safe.
All right,
And
one more
clearly,
skip and
as
I'll
we've
do it.
said multiple times, no one beats America when it comes to
Guys, I
quality.
want to see the charts.
So let's start
Okay,
potentially
let's skip
with the
through to
next.
the charts.
We will top over 9 million tests. And if you look
Okay,
at per capita,
look at this. Let's look at this chart. Okay, here's the chart. United States all the way down. Oh, and then Germany comes next. Wow, look how far ahead we are. How convenient that they chose that chart and not this one that includes Germany. And who else is in there? Let's see, Russia, and who's up there? Who is that? Who is that? Give me, and then another, give it to me. It is, okay, it's not showing me which country it is, but there's another country right there as well. That might be Italy, might not be. Yeah, so that's what you do. Rather than show the chart that might make you look bad, you show this chart where you're just way out in front. Nobody's even close because you've eliminated two countries in between. Oh, no, there's that other country. I don't even know which country that is. It's not the United Kingdom, not Italy. Anyway, yeah, so you get rid of Russia, and suddenly you look a lot better. Let's skip on to the next chart. Leading the world in testing, blah, blah, blah. We're going to catch up with real time at some point. He tends to drone, being that he's in the Navy. It's a military thing. Historic scale of testing. Yeah, oh, let's get closer on this. Can we? Let's get, are they going to show this to us? National emergency declared, and I can't even read those dates. Yeah, March. The March 11th, it looks like we really start doing the testing, and there's the problem. Let's look at how you actually do the testing. You don't wait until March 7th, March 11th. You start way back at the beginning, and this is South Korea again. And by the time you hit March, you're already at 100,000 tests. That's how you do it. All right. Skip ahead, skip ahead. Boop, boop, boop. Moving forward. We might be catching up to live. Oh, what's this? What was that? I love my charts. $11 billion to states devoted to testing capability. The Trump administration is sending more than $11 billion to every state and territory and tribes. They're sending more than $11 billion to every state? No, they're not. That is, I'm not making this up, guys. They can't do English. There's America. Speak English, goddamn. The Trump administration is sending more than $11 billion to every state and territory and tribes. So all tribes are getting $11 billion apiece. You can make this up, but people would laugh. No, the Navy's great, but they have drones. That's just a reference. Nothing wrong with the Navy at all.
For their vulnerable community minorities' health.
Something wrong with the Admiral.
Surfaces they
Okay, who's this guy?
Thank you, Admiral. I want to talk through a little bit specifically the work that we've been doing with the states. So as the Admiral mentioned, over the past few weeks, we've been working with each state to set a target for their testing goal for May.
Hey, John.
Over
Pong
the
Pong.
series of a couple of different calls, we've aligned on what those goals are. And as the Admiral mentioned and the President mentioned, they add up to over 12.9 million tests in the month of May. For every state, this is greater than
Again, this is a
2%
goal.
of their population in the entire state being tested in May. And for many states, it's a much higher number than that. When you compare this, as the President mentioned, to South Korea is actually below that 2%, not for a month, but for their total test to date since the start of the year.
Yeah,
as our
because
states have
they-
come together to set really ambitious goals that we're excited
Early
to support them in
testing.
meeting. You go to the next slide. As I talked about
We
last
can't
time
see
in the
the
press
slides.
briefing,
What
there are really
slides?
3 parts to making sure that a test can happen. The first
there we
part
go.
is the specimen collection supplies.
Swabs.
Support the states are able to
Drink it if you
exceed
got
the
it.
number of testing machines across the country.
Here's the thing. They keep showing us how many labs are out there. This is like showing you a map of all the car washes in your state. But if you don't have the swabs, the labs mean nothing. It's like showing you the car washes and you don't have tires. You got a car. You're ready to get it washed, but no. It's ridiculous.
5,000 extraction in each state.
And this is
So
why
make-
we haven't had
make
enough
it a
tests. I mean, that's
massively big
exactly
rampant
why we
bill
haven't had
size
the
over
materials, the
machines.
reagents, the
So, thank you.
swabs, etc.
We're a member of the Vice President.
Oh, we got
you very much, Brad.
questions.
Maybe you'll-
Usually calls on John first, so I think that's what. Guys, I love the Navy. In the Navy you can sail the 7 seas. In the Navy you can set your mind at ease. There's so many things you can do in the Navy. Nothing against the Navy. I'm just saying I just associated drones and Navy because the navies, all of the navies, they use drones.
Both stay there.
Let's go to
Could be
questions.
some questions. Okay, please, John, go ahead.
Oh, I was recruited for the Navy in high school. They recruited me for naval intelligence, and then someone told them, well, he's not a citizen. And that was that.
You can't hear me. We had a situation here at the White House on Friday.
Oh, but this is interesting. They told me that if I joined, I wasn't allowed to tell anybody I was in naval intelligence, that there were a list of jobs I could choose from. One of them was donut chef. So if somebody asked, oh, what'd you do in the Navy? Oh, I was a donut chef. So if you run into somebody who is in the armed forces or was in the armed forces, maybe somebody in this very chat room, Dee, what did you do in the Navy? Were you a donut chef? Did you prepare potatoes? That means they were in intelligence. Don't tell anybody.
Where a member of the Vice President's staff tested positive for coronavirus, which has now caused 3 of the top U.S. officials involved in the coronavirus response to self-isolate. Two-part question. Where did the system break down to allow that to happen? And what would you say to employers to look at the experience here at the White House and say, are we ready for this?
I don't think the system broke down at all. One person tested positive, surprisingly, because the previous day tested negative. And
Lizzie
3
was
people
intelligence.
that were in contact, relative contact, who I believe they've all tested totally negative, but they are going to, for a period of time, self-isolate. So that's not breaking down. It can happen. It's the hidden enemy. Remember that. It's the hidden enemy. So things happen.
But get back to work, everyone.
The 3 tested negative. The one who tested positive will be fine. It will be absolutely fine. Yeah, John?
And what do you say, Mr. President, to other companies who may look at this and say, I don't know if we're ready for all this?
Well, I think, we have a lot of people in the White House, and we had one. Basically, we had one person. So we had a lot of people that work here. This building is shocking if you looked at the numbers, and it's also tremendous numbers of people coming in. Normally, you wouldn't do that.
I'm laughing at you, Debbie.
But because we're running a country, we want to keep our country running. So we have a lot of people coming in and out. Many of those people, most of those people are tested, depending on what portion of the Oval Office area they're going in. Everybody coming into the president's office gets tested, and I felt no vulnerability whatsoever, John. But the 2 people, as I said, and 3 people are They have been tested, and it's
3
negative,
people.
and they'll be probably out
Okay.
of quarantine very quickly. Okay?
President,
John?
if I can follow up on that, your staff, your senior staff, as you just referenced, is able to get tested every day. When will it be that Americans across
Yeah, I know. 2 people have been tested positive, as you would say. You could say positive, and that number will soon be down to 0. Breaking: White House has 2 million coronavirus cases.
the country will be able to get tested every day
It's funny because people are dying.
as they go back to work?
Very soon. I mean, really very soon. It's an interesting question because normally you would have said that you are not tested, and you would have been, knocking us for not getting tested. So if we get tested, it's a problem, and if we don't get tested, it's a problem. But I like the way your question was phrased better this way, because it is a positive. We are tested. We have great capability. You look at all of these machines here. They're incredible machines. They're the best anywhere in the world. No place in the world has this kind of equipment. Other countries are calling sophisticated countries, and they're calling lots of countries. And we're trying to make as much as we can available to them, because there's nothing like what we've been able to do in literally a couple of months. What they've been able to do, the private sector, how they got it done. This is a 5.
I'm looking over there at someone and just like, what I have no idea what. There's nobody there. It's an empty kitchen. But this is how. I'm imagining the chat room's over there. I'm looking over there at you guys. Just
5 to 15-minute test, as an example, the Abbott Laboratories test.
Hey,
These
Jeff
tests are
Rochford.
highly sophisticated, very quick, very good. This is things that didn't even exist a short while ago. So we do have a great testing capability. At the White House, we're doing it. And
Breaking: the test for coronavirus didn't exist before the coronavirus.
I think, generally speaking, we had a call with the governors the other day. Generally speaking, without exception, they were all extremely happy with what's going on with respect to their
that's
testing.
important.
Okay?
But should people be told to go back to work until they
Generally speaking, without exception.
have that assurance that they and their coworkers are able to get a test, which we're still not there?
We're leaving that up to the governors.
I don't know what you're doing, Jeff Rochford, but I like it because you're constantly replying to yourself, and that puts you into a certain age range, my age range.
As you know, and if we see something wrong, we'll call them out and we'll stop it. But we are leaving it up to the governors. Some are being not aggressive enough, in my opinion, and some are being a little bit aggressive, but they're being very
Sophisticated
careful. And the people
countries.
of the country, they've learned a lot over the last 2 months. They've learned about social distancing and washing your hands and other things that we've all learned and talked about. They've learned about, I see just about everybody has a face mask on. They've learned about face masks, the good and the bad, by the way. It's not a one-sided thing, believe it or not. But our country has learned. Our country has been incredible. And
Let's just take a quick look at our country learning about social distancing with some commentary by Governor Chris Christie.
And I don't think that Americans ever thought that life was without risk. There's always going to be some risk. But to say that Americans' behavior, if we began to open up our economy now in reasonable ways, would be the same as it was before March of this year, I think it's just foolish. The American people understand now we have to social distance. They understand now that we're going to have to wear masks, that we don't shake hands. We can't get close to each other. We're not going to open football or baseball stadiums to 50,000 or more people. We're not going to do those things down as well.
We got this thing nailed, y'all.
And you see the numbers, they're dropping very substantially. The numbers are dropping around our country very, very substantially. So we leave that, John, up
Wait,
to
what did
the
he say?
thing, believe it or not. But our country has learned. Our country has been incredible. And you see the numbers, they're dropping very substantially. The numbers are dropping around our country very, very substantially. So we leave that, John, up to the governors, and I think they're making a lot of good decisions. We've had, as I said, a great relationship with governors, Democrat and Republican, and I think overall they're making very good decisions.
Well, as long as you got great relationships.
Nobody in this group. All the ones behind the rope. That's interesting. Please.
Thank you, Mr. President. You said in your comments earlier, we have met the moment, we have prevailed. To you, sir, is the mission accomplished, even with 1.4
No,
million?
we prevailed on testing is what I'm referring to. That was with regard to testing. You never prevail when you have 90,000 people, 100,000 people, when you have 80,000 people as of today, when you have the kind of death you're talking about, when you have potentially millions of people throughout the world that are dying, that's not prevailing. What I'm talking about is we have a great testing capacity now. It's getting even better. There's nobody close to us in the world, and we certainly have done a great job
Barbara.
on testing. And testing is a very big, important function. By the way, some people consider it more important than others, to be honest with you. But testing
Scientists,
certainly is a very
doctors,
important function, and we have
testers,
prevailed. We have the best
humans.
equipment anywhere in the world. Okay, please. Yeah, please go ahead.
There are a variety of reports that Chinese hackers are attempting to steal technology related to vaccine research. Is this something you're concerned about? What can you say?
So what else is new with China? What else is new? Tell me. I'm not happy with China. They should have stopped this at the source. They could have stopped it right at the source.
Hi, Patricia.
So now you're telling me they're hacking. So I just say this, Steve, what else is new? We're watching it very closely.
If I could follow up, sir, the South China Morning Post, the Beijing newspaper.
I don't even know what he's talking about with the China. Yeah, okay, China's bad. This is the growth week over week here. Let me see if I can make it a little smaller so that everybody can find their state. So last Monday compared to this Monday, find your state on the chart here. Boop, boop, a little bit more. See what I can do for you guys. Okay, hopefully you can read that. If you're not on your phone, you should be watching on a PC, for God's sake. You're at home anyway. So yeah, all the states are up except for Hawaii and Montana in terms of percentages. They only have 3 and 1 new case, respectively. Minnesota's up 17%. South Dakota, which has no stay-at-home, is up 14%. Nebraska has no stay-at-home, up 14%. To Alabama, let's find Georgia on here because there they are. Georgia is up 7%. Yeah, the numbers aren't going down anyway. If you compare the rate of growth between 2 weeks ago and this week, some of the states are down. But in general, nobody has met the 14 days, let's go down. You take New York out of the equation, cases are still on the upward slope.
Paper says that China would like to reopen negotiations on the trade deal to make the terms more favorable to them. Is this something you'd be interested in doing?
No, not at all. Not even a little bit, no. I'm not interested. We signed a deal. I had heard that too. They'd like to reopen the trade talk to make it a better deal for them. China's been taking advantage of the United States for many, many years, for decades.
Blah, blah, blah.
Because we had people at this position right here where I'm standing, sitting right in that office, the Oval Office, that allowed that to happen. No, I'm not interested in that. Let's see if they live up to the deal that they signed. Okay? Please, go ahead.
And in the meantime, I will keep bankrupting the farmers.
About a second round of direct payments to Americans that's included in the House Democratic bill?
Yes.
Well, we're talking about that with a lot of different people. I want to see a payroll tax cut. I want to see various things that we want. I want the workers to be taken care of.
And those of us who've lost our job, the 20% of the population who don't have a job right now, the payroll tax cut, not really helpful.
But we are talking about that. We're negotiating with the Democrats. We'll see what happens. But as I said, it's a transition, and this is really going to be, in my opinion, we'll see.
A transition to greatness.
I think it's going to be something that's going to be very special. It's a transition to greatness. And greatness is next year, right from the beginning. I think we're going to do fantastically well. I view the third
once Biden gets in.
quarter, as I said, as a transition quarter. Could be pretty good, but a transition quarter.
This is what I'm saying, Rich. If you don't have a job, the payroll tax is completely useless to you, as is the corporate tax credit write-off for restaurant dining. Oh, by the way, guys, don't go to a restaurant right now. Going to a restaurant right now is insanity. There's a chart. I can show it to you. Actually, you guys watch, and I'm going to pull up the chart of how the virus spreads in an indoor space.
Toward the end of the fourth quarter, you're going to see some numbers that are going to be tremendous, I think. And next year, you're going to have potentially the kind of numbers that you saw before, and maybe even better, because there is that pent-up demand that is. A lot of people wanted to do things, they were ready to do things, and they've had to hold back because of the virus. So I think you're going to have, with that pent-up demand, a phenomenal year next year, unless somebody messes it up by coming along and raising taxes, doubling, tripling, quadrupling your taxes, like a certain party, namely the Democrats, want to do. You'll mess it all up. You know,
Oh,
we
it's
had
not the
greatest
Republican
in
Party?
the world. I presided. This administration presided over it. It got great for a reason, and we'll do it again. And we'll do it again very quickly and very easily. I see that happening. Yes.
Okay, this is why you shouldn't go to a restaurant right here. This was a restaurant in China, January 24th. Actually, before January 24th, because that's when the first case happened. You see that little yellow circle right there? That was the person who had coronavirus. All those other circles, that's who got the coronavirus from being in the proximity of that person in an enclosed space. You can see over on the right side of the picture, that's the air conditioner. The exhaust is on the left, and even with all the airflow going towards the left of the screen, from north to south in this case, people to the north of that infected person in the yellow circle still got sick. This virus is shed into the air, and oh, by the way, that person, asymptomatic. So kids, don't go to a restaurant. Go do takeout. I can't even say that that's safe, but do not sit in an enclosed space with people for an amount of time, except church, because you're bathed in the blood of Jesus, so you're fine.
Yes, ma'am, please.
Thank you, Mr. President. Almost everyone, as you noted, in the Rose Garden is wearing a mask today. Why haven't you required everyone at the White House to wear masks before now?
Well, if they're a certain distance from me or if they're a certain distance from each other, they do. In the case of me, I'm not close to anybody. I'd like to be close to these two gentlemen. They're hardworking, great men, but they just
He has
said,
no friends.
Frankly, let's keep it this way. So obviously, in my case, I'm very far away from everyone. But if you look at all of those people over there, every one of them, from what I see, these are White House staffers, they're White House representatives.
Not the question. Why
they're White
didn't you
House
do this before?
executives, and everybody has a mask on. We've had.
By the way, he was asked on Friday if people in the White House wear masks, and his answer was, oh, yeah, oh, yeah.
And just about everybody I've seen today has worn a mask. Yeah.
Were you the
please
one
go
who
ahead.
required that, sir?
I like glazed in the blood of Jesus because, tasty.
Yeah, I did. I required it. Yes. Please. Go ahead.
No, he didn't.
Mr. President,
That's
you're
it.
now
That tone of
promising-
voice, that guilty dog tone of voice that he uses. I mean, remember, he hates dogs. We're like, oh, who used the Sharpie on the weather map, sir? I don't know. I don't know. That when he's lying when he does that. Okay, that's kind of a shortcut on my part. He's lying whenever he says anything. But you can really tell at that point.
That everyone who needs a test will be able to get one at some point soon.
Hey,
Can
Gordy's
you give us
mom.
some figures on what
Hey.
you're changing to ramp up testing? When will that be a true?
Hold on a second. U.S. Amber, U.S. TDS is a made-up syndrome. It's not a real thing. Go ahead and look that up and then come back. Please tell your friends to come into the chat room. It helps my numbers. It generates revenue for me. And Lord knows the president isn't helping us.
Statement exactly, and how exactly are you going
Let's go
to?
back and hear the beginning of her question.
Mr. President, you're now promising that everyone who needs a test will be able to get one at some point soon. Can you give us some figures on what you're changing to ramp up testing? When will that be a true statement exactly? And how exactly are you going to accomplish that?
Now
Well, it's a
promising?
true statement already. We have more testing than any country in the world by far, but I'll let Admiral go into a little bit of the future.
When you look at the testing numbers that we worked with collaboratively with the state leadership, it's not just with the governor, but the
Anyone who wants a test can get a test. When will that be a true statement? Well, it certainly wasn't when he was at the CDC.
Anybody that wants a test can get a test. That's what I would just say that we.
Maybe at the end of the broadcast, I'll tell you about Kevin Lee daughter's problem getting a test, as well as Kevin Lee's son. I had 2 sick kids last week. Neither of them could get a test. And then we did get one as a surveillance, and then one of them disappeared. Someone stole a coronavirus test.
state health officers, the state epidemiologists, the public health labs. It's really a combination of testing those who need something for diagnosis, diagnostic
Yeah, they're keeping
testing,
Trump. They give him his own
tracing,
podium.
so testing those who have been around the people with a diagnosis.
Protect POTUS.
But the largest fraction of that is really moving into surveillance. That is testing those who are asymptomatic. And when you do the numbers, This amount of testing on a state-to-state basis really is in the range that we need to accomplish all of that, certainly within the range that we need. So it really encompasses those three things. The other thing I would say is, particularly as we move into the summer, there are surveillance mechanisms, and I talked about them before, like a weather radar. And just think about that weather radar. The influenza-like illness network, which is at about 75% of healthcare institutions, and syndromic surveillance. So if we see a blip on that weather radar, combined with CDC personnel in every single state, and with contact tracers, we really run to the fire.
This guy's boring me already. U.S. Amber, I'm glad that you mentioned Obamagate. I want to tell everyone in the chat room, never vote for Obama again. Happy?
Right, and that's when you detect, you trace, and you shut off that outbreak right when it starts.
Mr. President, there does seem to be a double standard here, Mr. President, where members of your own staff can get tests frequently when they need it, but ordinary Americans cannot. So when will the rest of America have the same access that members of your own White House have to
Just admitted it.
And you know what? If we didn't get the tests, if we did no tests in the White House, you'd be up complaining, why aren't you getting tests for the White House? See, we can't win, because if we didn't get the tests, you'd be up. I understand you very well, better than you understand yourself. And frankly, if we didn't get tests done, you'd be up complaining about the fact that we didn't have the tests done. Now that we're doing so well on tests, and so quick and so fast, 5 minutes, et cetera, and so accurate, you're complaining that we're getting too many tests. So you can't win. Go ahead, Phil.
Complaining that you can't get...
The fact that we didn't have the tests done. Now that we're doing so well on tests, and so quick and so fast, 5 minutes, et cetera, and so accurate, you're complaining that we're getting too many tests. So you can't win. Go ahead, Phil.
Complaining that we're getting too many. He's getting too many tests. Like the crawl says, highest amount of testing per Ivanka of any nation on the planet. You can't argue with that.
Yeah, Mr. President, many Americans want to return to their normal lives, but they're afraid to do so. How can you ensure Americans that it's safe to go to their own workplaces when the most secure workplace in the country, the White House, cannot contain the spread of the coronavirus? It's infected some of your own staff.
Well, when you say some, so we have a person, and the person got something happened right after a test was done. 3 other people met that person, came into relative contact, very little contact, and they're self-quarantining. That is not exactly not controlling it. I think we've controlled it very well. We have hundreds and hundreds of people a day pouring into the White House. It's a massive office complex.
They're pouring into the White House. You guys need a wall.
Including the very large building right behind us that you know so well. So I think we're really doing a very good job in watching it, and I think it's very well contained, actually. And part of the reason it is because of all the tests we're able to give. But it was one person, and the other people were only people. They're quarantined. You understand this, Phil. They're quarantined for a specific reason. The reason is they were in the general proximity of the one person. And the one person, I believe, will be fine in a very short period of time.
Why hasn't Vice President Pence followed the CDC guidelines of self-isolation and other people who might have been exposed to this?
Well, that I'm going to have to ask that. He will give you that information. Whatever he is proceeding and doing, he will give you.
I'm going to have Mike Pence come out here and talk to you personally.
That information. I'll make sure that they put out a notice. John, go ahead, please.
Actually, you know what? Since he's so busy, I'm just going to have his press secretary drop by your... Oh, wait.
Mr. President, up until now, it's thought that the most vulnerable people were those above the age of 60 or 70 or 80, and the children were pretty much... I don't want to say immune from this, but weren't affected by it. But all day long in the news today, we have been hearing and seeing this terrible syndrome that some 85 children have now. 3 of them have died. What is the task force talking about in terms of that, and what could be done about it?
We're seeing that all over the world now with young children. Very, very tiny percentage, but it's still, it's the swelling and the skin rash. And we're looking at that very closely, John. It's a phenomena that's just been brought to everyone's attention a couple of weeks ago. Admiral, you may have something to say about that.
So thank you for pointing that out. And again, I've said many times I'm a pediatrician and a pediatric ICU doctor. This syndrome, which we call, or similar to Kawasaki syndrome, it has been seen in a novel coronavirus before, and it's associated with illnesses. So we have a very strong activation on this. We do know treatments for this, but the CDC is interacting actively with the Pediatric Intensive Care Unit network to create case definitions and to understand how this is going and if there are predispositions. The National Heart, Lung, and Blood Institute, I spoke to Dr. Gary Gibbons, who directs that, who is advancing many research projects based on that. The ASPR, the Assistant Secretary for Preparedness and Response, has a team out in several areas looking at if there are.
I think they're talking about Kawasaki syndrome. I'm not sure because I hadn't heard it was as high as 85 or 83, 85 people, whatever was just said. This is an after effect of the COVID. A lot of kids come through just fine from COVID-19 or are completely asymptomatic, and now more and more of them, apparently 85 now, if I'm correct, are suffering from Kawasaki disease, which is syndromes, disease, interchangeable.
Any special treatments? We know what the basic treatment is, but this is a little bit different than we normally see. So there really is an activation among all the branches within HHS, working with networks at children's hospitals and ICU nets. It is a small percentage, but it is quite frightening. And this reflects the fact that this virus affects the vasculature. We see clotting, we see strokes. And this is a vasculature phenomenon of inflammation we see in children.
Mr. President, with this newly emerging syndrome now among young children, what do you say to parents who would like to get their children back to school but are now looking at this and potentially afraid to do that?
Well, again, it's a tiny percentage, but you're right. So we're looking into it very strongly. And the Admiral, as he said, he's known about this for long before this happened.
As long as he's looking into it very strongly, I feel fine about everything.
But it is a very, very small percentage. And people recover from that. The children recover from that. Right?
Yeah, yes, sir. Most do recover
from
this, but it is a serious and it can be a fatal condition.
You can die.
So we do want to make sure that parents understand that high fevers, red rashes, particularly in your child, you may need to contact your healthcare provider. There are treatments for this. They work very effectively if gotten early, at least for the vast majority of the cases.
We're studying that very closely, and it's been on the radar for weeks, actually, because
but are you studying it strongly?
For quite a while.
Okay.
But it's been very rare.
So we've known about it for quite a while, for weeks actually. Get back to school, kids.
But we're looking at it very closely. It's very important to us. I think one of the things we're most proud of is this just came out, deaths per 100,000 people, So deaths per 100,000 people. Germany and the United States are at the lowest rung of that ladder, meaning low is a positive, not a negative. Germany and the United States are the two best in deaths per 100,000 people.
No.
Which, frankly, to me, that's perhaps the most important number there is. Please go in the back, please.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. President. I have two questions, one on the Ahmaud Arbery case and one on the coronavirus. The first on the coronavirus, the vice president is said to be in some sort of self-isolating, keeping his distance from people. What do you say to Americans who say, how can you keep me safe? How can you reopen the government if even the vice president is self-isolating? And why hasn't testing gotten up to the point where every American who wants a test can get a test?
Well, the vice president, first of all, has been tested, and he's negative, and it was tested yesterday, tested today, and he's negative. He's in very good shape, and I think that that's going to be fine. As far as
okay, I do want to show you guys this. This is the mortality rate. Deaths. I found deaths per 100,000. Let me zoom in. Give me a second. I've only got two screens here. Let's go in on this. I will move it around for you. So here's the deaths per 100,000. Here's the confirmed cases at the bottom. The y-axis is going to be your death, and it'll give us percentages here. So we look at United Kingdom, terrible, 14.5%. Germany, 4.4%. That's down at the lower end. But then you go below that, Turkey. Peru, 2.8%. Chile, 1.1%. Belarus, 0.6%. Australia, 1.4%. Let's look at the U.S., 6%. So if you take a look at Germany versus the U.S., yes, it's down below Spain and France and the United Kingdom, but that's if you discount all the other countries. Belgium's ahead of us, Netherlands ahead of us, Canada is, I saw Canada here. Canada, there it is, 7.1. So Canada's actually doing worse in deaths per 100,000. But all of these other, but you know, we're just not going to show you those other countries. So really, they don't count, and that's the important thing.
Americans getting a test, they should all be able to get a test right now. They should be able to get a test. That's the problem with a question like that. We go through a whole announcement saying we're #1 in the world by far, by a factor of 2 and even 3 and 4, depending on where you're looking.
Nope.
And I get a question: when will everybody?
Yeah, depending on where you're looking. If you look at us versus Papua New Guinea Pig, we're like by a factor of 2 or 3.
Be able to get tested. If somebody wants to be tested right now, they'll be able to be tested. As far as the incident, I think it's horrible, and it's certainly being looked at by many people. I'm speaking to many people about it. He looked, I saw the picture of him in his tuxedo. It was so beautiful. I mean, he looks like a wonderful young guy. Would have been a wonderful, just a wonderful guy. I think it's a horrible thing. I think it's a horrible thing. Now, with that being said,
he couldn't think of any other word for guy.
They're studying the case very carefully. They're interviewing everybody involved, and we'll see what happens. To me, it's a very sad thing. I spoke to a number of people that are very much involved in it. I've been following that one very closely. It breaks your heart to watch it. It breaks your heart. And certainly the video was a terrible-looking video to me. But you have a lot of people looking at it, and hopefully an answer is going to be arrived at very quickly. But it's something that is heartbreaking.
Specific question about the case, if I could ask it. The specific question I have is, you said that there possibly are things that happened that were not recorded on the tape. Could you expound on what you mean by that and your thoughts on?
Well, I saw the tape, and when they moved left, I don't believe, when they moved left outside of the tape, nobody saw what was going on. Nobody saw it's an empty spot on the tape, I guess. Now, do they have additional tapes? I hope. But I will say that it's something that, based on what I saw, doesn't look good. Somebody that I have a lot of respect for is Senator Scott of South Carolina. You know who I'm talking?
He's talking about the case of the young man that was killed by the father and son when he was just out jogging. Black jogger, white, redneck, father and son.
Talking about, he's a great gentleman. He's a great senator. He's a great gentleman, Tim Scott. And I called him 2 days ago. I said, Tim, what do you think? Tell me. What do you think? He's very disturbed by it. He's very disturbed, and I'm very disturbed also. Please, go ahead.
President Trump, thank you. I have 2 questions, one on testing and one on Democratic states that you tweeted about.
Is that
First,
OAN?
The money for this new testing support today comes from the CARES Act, which you signed into law 42 days ago. Did your delay in embracing widespread testing have anything to do with a desire to suppress the official number of U.S. cases and deaths as you try to reopen the country?
No, we just wanted to make sure that we had the proper machinery, apparatus, and everything else out there before people started wasting money. So, method of saving money. We want to make sure we had even things like this. Plus, they have machines that are far more complex than this. They have massive machines at some of the laboratories.
Sorry, guys, I got to go back on this and hear what he's...
Your delay in embracing widespread testing have anything to do with a desire to suppress the official number of U.S. cases and deaths as you try to reopen the country?
No, we just wanted to make sure that we had the proper machinery, apparatus, and everything else out there before people started wasting money. So, method of saving money. We want to make sure we had even things like this. Plus, they have machines that are far more complex than this. They have massive machines at some of the laboratories that can do millions of tests. We want to make sure everything was in place. Okay, go ahead.
And earlier today, you tweeted that Democrats are moving slowly.
Hold on. He delayed sending money out to the states in order to save money because the states couldn't test until now, and he was worried that the states would spend the money testing without
for political purposes. Why do you believe that their motive is?
They have
We're going to hear the
massive
question
machines in
again.
some of the
last,
laboratories
my brain is
that can do
broken.
millions of tests. We want to make sure everything was in place. Okay, go ahead.
And earlier today, you tweeted that Democrats are moving slowly for political purposes. Why do you believe that their motive is politics rather than public safety? And how do you respond to criticism that you're also motivated by politics to try to grow the economy ahead of the election?
Well, I think that if you look at Pennsylvania as an example, if you look at various other states, I won't get into them, the people want to go back. The numbers are getting to a point where they can, and there just seems to be no effort on certain blue states to get back into gear, and the people aren't going to stand for it. They want to get back. They're not going to stand for it. They want our country open. I want our country open, too. I want it open safely, but I want it open. Don't forget, people are dying the other route. You can go with the enclosed route. Everything's
Pennsylvania's
closed
at 7%
up.
route.
You're in your house. You're
growth.
not allowed to move. People are dying with that, too. You look at drug addiction. You look at suicides. You look at some of the things that are taking place. People are dying that way, too. You could make the case it's in even greater numbers.
No, you can't make that case. During the last recession, which lasted for 2.5 to 3 years, 10,000 people committed suicide off the entirety of North America and Europe combined. 10,000 people committed suicide. We've already got at least 80,000 Americans dead. Many more who haven't been counted, as they just discovered in New York. The CDC is saying about 5,000 extra people died in New York that didn't get counted in the first go-round because nobody realized that it was part of the coronavirus epidemic.
So it's a situation that some people, and I've noticed that some states could be moving more quickly, and also at the same time safety. Look, safety is paramount.
No, it's people watching these press conferences, and they can't take it anymore. They turn to drink, they turn to drugs. It's killing people.
But people are dying in the lockdown position, too.
The lockdown
and
position?
Everybody understands that. They just don't.
Do you guys understand that? Do you guys understand the lockdown position? Because I've never read the Karma Sutra.
Starting to find out. And look at what's going on with drugs, and look at what's happening with suicides. Yeah, please. Please, go ahead.
Hi, Mr. President. So Americans have been self-quarantining for several months now.
Yeah, hold on. I thought that Jared was in charge of getting rid of the drug problem, so what he's saying makes no sense because, Jared solved the Middle East, the opioid crisis, the racial gap in the country.
Social distancing, yet we're still seeing about 20,000 new cases a day, 1,000 to 2,000 deaths. Is there anything else the administration is planning to do to get these new cases under control? Because we seem to be...
Guys, this is how we know that Green Room is Irish. Look at, he said the king of shite, but he put the ... and you see the E at the end there, whereas an American would just say the king of sh ... So he puts the extra E on there, and it just sounds better. I like that. I like shite.
On a plateau. Or is this just
well, excuse me, the 20,000, the numbers are way down from what they were 2 weeks ago. I mean, the numbers are really coming down and very substantially. This weekend was one of the lowest we've had.
Who's telling him
the numbers
this?
are coming down very rapidly. All throughout the country, by the way. There may be one exception, but all throughout the country, the numbers are coming down rapidly. I think you see that, Admiral.
Now 130,000 cases that go through August. Do you agree with those models? Is that your expectation as well?
Well, the models haven't been exactly accurate. These are models done by a lot of think tanks, a lot of universities. You look at some of the models, they've been way off. A few of the models have been accurate, but as far as the models are concerned, if you go by the model, we were going to lose 2.2 million people. And because we mitigated, we did things that were very tough for our country to do, frankly. We had to turn off our whole magnificent economy. We had to turn down the whole country. We're at the lowest of all of the models. I mean, if you look at, I guess that 100 to 120,000 people would be at the low side. And we're at, there's nothing low. Look, nothing low. One is too many people. And I say it all the time.
Nowhere to go
One
with
person
this.
to lose for this is too many people. It's a disgrace what happened. But if you look at the models,
it is a disgrace what happened.
At the lowest of those projections. But the models are not models done necessarily by the White House. They're models done by many people all over the world. And if you take the most respected of those people, many of those models are wrong. I mean, they've been wrong as far as the U.S. is concerned, because those numbers are nowhere near what was projected potentially.
An expectation of what the death toll is going to look like by the summer, by the...
You know what? I don't want to think about it even. I know that we're doing everything we can. We're doing a good job. We acted very early. We acted extremely early in keeping China out of our country and banning people from China coming in other than our citizens, which we obviously had to take, and they were quarantined or watched carefully. They were tested. They were watched very carefully. But we had about 40,000 people coming in from China, from Asia, and we had to obviously take the people. Can you imagine if I said you're a U.S. citizen, we're not going to take you? That doesn't work. So, but they were very carefully. I was with Ron DeSantis. He said they literally put the people that came in from China in quarantine for a substantial period of time.
They didn't. That's
no, that was a big
lie.
decision. I think we saved hundreds of thousands of lives by acting very early. And when I did this, I think the Admiral can say it. Everybody was against.
No, DeSantis told him that he wanted to put people into quarantine who were coming in from New York much later, but nobody was doing any testing. I'll show it to you. So 40,000 people came in after he closed China. And if that was January, well, it actually was February 2nd. So let's go back to February 2nd. Look at the testing. 40,000 people come in. Let me go close up for you guys. So 40,000 people come in during this period from the beginning of February, from between there and about here, 40,000 people. And as of March 7th, we'd only tested 3,753. So we weren't testing and quarantining people. 3,700, I believe, is slightly lower than 40,000. I believe it's close to zero. Anyway, so that's just absolute
doing
bullshit,
it. Everybody,
and it kills
everybody
people.
was. The professionals, the doctors, for a substantial period of time. No, that was a big decision. I think we saved hundreds of thousands of lives by acting very early. And when I did this, I think the Admiral can say it. Everybody was against my doing it. Everybody was. The professionals, the doctors. I was pretty much by myself on that one. And it was a lucky thing we did it, because we saved hundreds of thousands of lives. Yeah, please.
And it was all him. Not even the doctors, not the professionals. Everybody was saying, don't do it, please,
earlier
Mr.
today,
Trump.
The Vice President urged governors to have all their nursing home residents tested. Why not just mandate that? Why not require that? Have you considered that?
Well, I would certainly consider that. I will mandate it if you'd like. I think it's important to do, and I think, frankly, some of the governors were very lax with respect to nursing homes. It was obvious.
I will mandate that if you'd like. Okay, well then mandate it. Well, we'll have to see what happens.
Right from the beginning, the state of Washington, where 26 or 28 people died very early on. And I would have said nursing homes, and I did say nursing homes. That's what they should. Now, some of the states, many of the states are doing that. But
I did say nursing homes. That's what they should.
But I think all of the states should be. They have the capacity to do it. They should be doing nursing home. That is a real vulnerability.
What?
Would have said nursing homes, and I did say nursing homes. That's what they should. Now, some of the states, many of the states are doing that, but I think all of the states should be. They have the capacity to do it. They should be doing nursing home. That is a real vulnerability.
They have the capacity to do. I think they should be doing nursing home.
The two staffers that were announced last week as testing positive, are you aware of any additional White House staff?
No, not at all. I'm only aware of people that saw them, were tested, the tests were negative, and they're quarantining anyway. So, please, go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. President.
Someone ask him why.
I wanted to ask, are you now, or are you
Have you ever been a member of the
more with Vice President Pence as a precautionary measure?
Well, first of all, the job he's done on task force, the job he's done, frankly, as the Vice President of the United States has been outstanding. And he's a warrior, too, just like doctors and nurses. I mean, he is working so hard, and he's coming into contact with a lot of people. But again, he tested negative, so we have to understand that. But he comes into contact with a lot of people. It's something.
Yeah, the Secret Service has a bunch of positive tests too, but the Secret Service is all over the place. We don't know if that's Secret Service specifically guarding the president.
Probably during this quarantine period, we'll probably talk about...
Oh, yeah, and the Secret Service is not releasing any details because, patient privacy in a communicable disease.
I have not seen him since then, but I would say that he and I will be talking about that. Yeah, we can talk on the phone.
For Admiral Giroir, if I could. The president just said that Dr. Fauci, Dr. Hahn have tested negative. Then why do they need to be isolating? Is there some concern that they could be spreading the virus in some ways? Is there a concern about the testing? Why do they need to isolate?
So this is a very fundamental concept, and I'm so happy you brought that up.
So am I.
Because it underlies a lot of the questions here. If you test negative just at that one point, that just means you've tested negative for that point in time. We know that the incubation period for this virus can be many days. So the CDC guidelines really says that if you're in close contact, just testing negative on that one day doesn't mean you won't be positive later on. So the prudent and the recommended thing to do is to self-isolate yourself for the entire period of incubation and really then some. So that's what they're doing. It's a precautionary manner because they were negative. We all hope that they remain negative, but if they turned positive in a day or two or became symptomatic, that's still...
If the next question isn't, then why isn't the vice president, or then why isn't the president, I'm going to run to Washington right now and start punching.
Possible, even with a negative test.
Okay. Thank you, sir. Go ahead, Phil.
Follow up? Follow up?
Mr. President, in one of your Mother's Day tweets, you appear to accuse President Obama of the biggest political crime in American history by far. Those were your words. What crime exactly are you accusing President Obama of committing, and do you believe the Justice Department should prosecute him?
Obamagate. It's been going on for a long time. It's been going on from before I even got elected, and it's a disgrace that it happened. And if you look at what's gone on, and if you look at now all of this information that's being released, and from what I understand, that's only the beginning. Some terrible things happened, and it should never be allowed to happen in our country again. And you'll be seeing what's going on over the coming weeks. But I wish you'd write honestly about it, but unfortunately, you choose not to do so. Yeah, John, please.
What is the crime exactly that you're accusing him of?
You know what the crime is. The crime is very obvious to everybody. All you have to do is read the newspapers, except yours. John, please.
Yeah, Mr. President, if I can just get a clarification on the testing we've seen.
He's committed a double secret crime. So I don't even have to tell you what it's obvious. It's Obamagate. Can you imagine the discussion amongst the right-wing media and the Republican Party? They're on a conference call and they're like, okay, we need to come up with a gate for Obama. And Trump's like, Obamagate. And they're all like, well, it has to Treason Gate or FISA Gate or something like Obamagate. All right, no, it's Obamagate.
Seen clearly that the numbers of tests have gone up. There have been some advancements in testing. But you've said twice here today that every American who wants a test can get a test.
Yes.
That's not the case. 1.9 million tests per day is far short of every American that wants a test to be able to get it.
Well, I'm going to have the Admiral, but I will say just from listening and hearing like you do, we all do, not everybody should get a test because they have to have certain things and they're going to know when they're not feeling right. Those are the people that will be getting the test. But Admiral, I'll let you take it from there, please.
So everybody who needs a test can get a test. We have plenty of tests for that.
Not true.
Right now in America, anybody who needs a test can get a test in America with the numbers we have. If you are symptomatic with a respiratory illness, that is an indication for a test, and you can get a test. If you need to be contact traced, you can get a test. And we hope, and not hope, we are starting to have asymptomatic surveillance, which is very important. Again, that's over 3 million tests per week. That is sufficient for every.
Is anyone else locally? Does anybody else get surveillance? Have you heard on your? I know Los Angeles is doing it. Seattle's doing it. Anywhere else in the middle of the country doing it, guys?
Everyone who needs a test, symptomatic, contact tracing, and to our best projections, the asymptomatic kind of surveillance we need to get that. And that's the way it is.
That's not the way. If you don't have X number of symptoms right now, this is in Seattle, the birthplace of this in the United States. if you don't have exactly the right number of symptoms, and they have to be those symptoms, and your fever has to be X, you cannot get a test. And a lot of those people need tests, and a lot of asymptomatic people who've come into contact with those people need a test. So this is all bullshit. I know from personal experience.
Remember, I work at HHS. I work there every day. I don't get tested every day. I get monitored for my symptoms. Am I febrile? Do I have any other symptoms? I wear a mask when I go in. That's a safe work environment for the environment we have. If I became symptomatic, I would get a test, and if it were positive, I would isolate, and there'd be contact tracing to stop that, just the way it was done here. If I'm not symptomatic, I do the precautions as everyone is recommended in phase 1, and that's the essence of safely opening America.
And John, the numbers are coming way down, and they're coming down rapidly, and that's a beautiful thing to see. And that's pretty much universally all across the country. They're coming down very rapidly, so very important. Please, go ahead.
Sorry, guys, I was taking a pizza order from Kimberly Daughter.
So Americans who are going back to work shouldn't expect and shouldn't want to have the same thing that people coming to work here at the White House have, which is the ability to get tested regularly, regardless of symptoms. Is that what you're saying?
Let me clarify as well.
So let me touch my face.
People who come into close contact with the president get tested on a regular basis, okay? If I were not in close contact with the president specifically, I would not get tested.
And that's mostly for syphilis or other diseases that cause whatever the hell is going on with him.
Like most people here do not get tested. That's a very specific circumstance. When I work at HHS, I go at HHS, I don't get tested. I do the exact thing that we ask Americans to do, to monitor your symptoms. If you are symptomatic, self-isolate, get tested. We're one of our community-based testing sites at your hospitals. They're even...
Guys, you don't want any of this pizza. She's vegan and gluten-free, so...
At-home testing now that has been authorized, and to cooperate, that if you need...
No, actually, it's not that bad. It's actually quite tasty. I say when I'm really, really, really hungry.
To be contact traced and cooperate with your local public health. But not everybody who walks in here gets tested every time they do. If you're symptomatic, here at HHS, at a meatpacking plant, at a school, you need to get tested.
And the meatpacking plants now are doing very well. There's great testing around those plants. And we're finding out who had the problem. They're being quarantined, and the meatpacking is moving along very nicely. But they were trouble spots. They were hot zones, definitely. Please. And you know, one thing I think is very important, though, John, just to finish, we have now, and nobody says it, they just don't want to write it, by far more tests than any other country in the world, not even a contest. And the quality of our test is the best anywhere in the world. That's very important to say. Please, go ahead.
So to make sure I understand the White House's position, are you saying that right now you feel there is enough testing, adequate testing across the United States, or do you feel that it needs to be ramped up, and by how much, if so, does it need to be ramped up?
I think we've been clear all along that we believe, and the data indicate, we have enough testing.
Again, this is the guy who said we'd have 27 million tests by the end of March.
To do the phase 1 gradual reopening that has been supported in the president's plan and the task force plan. And it has to be a phased reopening. Nobody's saying turn the light switch on and everyone go, because then it would be really impossible to control the spread of the virus.
Plus, whenever we turn the light switch on from darkness, the president gets shocked and scared.
You know, there are many, many models out there. The Rockefeller Foundation published their recommendations of about 3 million tests per week. That's exactly what we're doing. If you look at our agent-based models, it's far below that. If you take the Stafford Center at Harvard and correct their misassumptions, like on the sensitivity of the test, the mitigation processes, and how many people get hospitalized, you get about that number. Now, I am not going to come here and say we can absolutely swear it's God's truth that this is the number we need, but we know we have enough to open, and we're going to be very careful with our ILI net, with our surveillance programs, and with the data come in to inform us even further. As
Isn't the ILI net from Terminator? Or is there something we should know?
We grow and learn. And I think, Brad...
And let me just add a little bit to that, because most days I don't come to the White House to work. I either go to FEMA or I go to HHS.
or to my junior high.
Jess, and let me just talk you through what the protocols are there, because I would never get tested if I wasn't coming to the White House. So every day when we come in, we get our temperature taken and we get asked questions about if we have symptoms. If you don't, then you enter the workplace. And then there's hand sanitizer all over the place. In rooms that are made for conference rooms, they put pieces of paper that say don't sit in essentially every other or every third seat to separate people. And so there's a lot of precautions that we're taking in the federal government that are separate from testing, and those are the precautions that the agencies that Admiral Giroir and I are working at every day are using to let us continue working.
If people want to get tested, they get tested. We have the greatest capacity in the world.
No.
Not even close. If people want to get tested, they get tested. But for the most part, they shouldn't want to get tested. There's no reason.
I want to get tested. There's reasons for me to get tested. I can't get tested, and yet every day watching this guy, I feel like I'm tested.
They feel good. They don't have sniffles. They don't have sore throats. They don't have any problem. If they do feel there's something happening.
Sniffles? Is sniffles now on the list of symptoms as well? I don't think that it is. I don't think sniffles is on there.
They have the absolute easy. In fact, Ron DeSantis of Florida, the governor, is doing a fantastic job in Florida. He said he's got a little bit of the opposite problem. He's got so much testing that people sit around and wait for people to come in, that they have a great overcapacity for testing, and there are new...
Because the standards required for getting a test are way too high.
Numerous other states that have told me the same thing. That's, by the way, a good problem, not a bad problem, okay? Yeah, go ahead, please.
Still a problem.
Said many times that the U.S. is doing far better than any other country when it comes to testing.
Yes.
Why does that matter? Why is this a global competition to you if every day Americans are still losing their lives and we're still seeing more cases every day?
Well, they're losing their...
Well, I don't know if you've been watching the last 70 years, but I'm a petty individual, and I value myself based on competition, everything that my friend Roy Cohn taught me. Well, okay, let's be honest, he wasn't my friend. I've never had a real friend, and I think that probably answers your question.
Lives everywhere in the world, and maybe that's a question you should ask China. Don't ask me, ask China that question, okay? When you ask them that question, you may get a very unusual answer. Yes, behind you, please.
Angela, so my friend Angela is in here. Angela is a flight attendant, and I'm hearing from my other FA friends that they're dropping, like, I don't want to say flies, because flight attendant, but is it prominent? Is everybody who's a flight attendant getting sick, Angela?
Sir, why are you saying that to me specifically?
Oh, let's go back.
Don't ask me, ask China that question, okay? When you ask them that question, you may get a very unusual answer. Yes, behind you, please.
This is going to be the headline from today,
they're
because
losing their lives everywhere.
You know, that's what we should be worried about, is that the president said something that may somehow be racist. But honestly, he's an asshole to everybody. So he just says really stupid things all the time. She might take it as being racist, but yeah, this will be what everybody's talking about today, and it's really of little significance because 80,000 Americans are dead.
Where in the world? And maybe that's a question you should ask China. Don't ask me, ask China that question, okay? When you ask them that question, you may get a very unusual answer. Yes, behind you, please.
Unusual answer.
Sir, why are you saying that to me specifically?
I'm telling you, I'm not saying it specifically to anybody. I'm saying it to anybody that would ask a nasty question like that.
That's not a nasty question.
Please go ahead.
Why does it matter?
Okay, anybody else?
And they cut her mic.
Go ahead in the back, please.
I have two questions.
No, it's okay.
But you pointed to me. I have two questions, Mr. President.
It's Caitlin, and he's like, nope, we're going over here. It's another woman. No more smart women. No more smart women.
Me.
I did, and you didn't respond, and now I'm calling on
Sorry, I just
the young lady in the back, please.
I just wanted to let my colleague finish,
Okay.
but can I ask you
Ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much. Appreciate it. Thank you
He's
very
running
much.
away. What an asswipe.
And welcome to the 5, a busy day of news to start out the week.
Let's see
the
what
White
Fox
House
has to
is
say.
wrapping up a news conference on testing.
He ran
as
away.
More states begin to
The
open
president
up.
put his
Trump
tail
saying
between
every
his
state
legs.
now has the capacity to do the
Cut
amount
and
of
run.
testing that South Korea did. It comes as coronavirus concerns have now hit the White House.
Wait, what did she say?
The House just wrapping up a news conference on testing as more states begin to open up. President Trump saying every state now has the capacity to do the amount of testing that South Korea did. It comes as coronavirus concerns have now hit.
Okay, well, we talked about that, and that's just a BS statistic because they did testing early and they don't need to do the amount of testing because they're on top of things. To the point where one guy who became typhoid, let's call him John, this past weekend, they're already doing the contact tracing on that, and they've now connected 80 cases to one individual. But hey, let's open up the country. Okay, well, that was that, guys. And oh my God, at the end there, Caitlin Collins goes to ask a question. He's like, okay, that's it. I'm done. I can't deal with you smart women. I'm out of here. Oh, God, the poor guy. But you know what really matters? I think Lizzie's right. Obamagate. That's what we really should be talking about right now. We have to make sure that Obama is never president again. Okay, all right. Well, I have a pizza to go get, I think. So, hey, thanks for joining me, everybody. If you like the broadcast and you want to contribute, absolutely, I'm happy to have you contribute because, let's be honest, I can't open up my nation. Not even sure what that means, but doesn't stop the president from saying things. Go to kevinleefather.com and you can give me money there, basically. Just me begging for money. You can become a patron, like my good friend. Today's broadcast brought to you by Karen Johnson. She's an old friend. She's a young friend who I've known for a long time, and she's decided to become a patron and chip in a little bit to the effort and bring you broadcasts like these and pay for Kevin Lee Daughter's pizza, which is inedible. Unless I'm really hungry, and then I'm going to eat it, right? Because, pizza. Okay, so let's wrap up with you guys here. Can you get press credentials? Ditch Mitch the Coward? I actually did inquire about press credentials, and then I never sent it off. So, but if OAN can be there, I'm just as valid as OAN at this point. But he didn't go to OAN. I don't know if they were there or not today, but he didn't go to them for a question, which was weird. And there was a couple of softballs, but nothing really remarkable. But then, he made the crack about asking China, which I hate to give him the benefit of the doubt, but he's just an asshole. And he's obsessed with China right now, trying to deflect blame from himself to China. And it's interesting now that they're trying to compare their testing to South Korea, all this while kind of ignoring South Korea. And now, now we can compare to South Korea because they don't test at the level that we are. Saying that, let's hold on. We can actually look at that, guys. Let's see if he's anywhere close. I have. Here we go. I think we can do this. I think I can do this by state. Give me a second here. I've seen it somewhere, but I look at a lot of stuff, so don't trust that I'm going to be able to find this. United States. Oh, I think this is it. Okay, no, this doesn't tell us. Here we go. Boom. Testing by state per 100. Okay, so let's see. Oh, so Rhode Island's way ahead of everybody. So the big announcement today is that every state will be able to test higher than South Korea. South Korea, as we saw, was basically 1,200. Washington's already doing that. Oregon's already doing that. California's already doing that. Arizona's already doing that. New Mexico's already doing that. Texas is already... Everybody's already testing more than South Korea that I can see on this map here. Oh, no. Wait, this can't be... Is this really right? Testing per state per 100,000 population. 2.81 thousand tests per 100 for the country. That's right. Just about every state is already doing it. Puerto Rico only at 74.4. 74. Has Puerto Rico done that many tests? I don't think that's accurate, but I let's just ignore that for now. Hawaii's done... Yeah, everybody's done more testing already than South Korea. So this big announcement that, we're going to be able to do... Every state's going to be doing more than South Korea. It's already happening. It's been happening. Not the point. You have to test early. It was 2 months ago that we were saying testing, testing, testing. So, yay, we're making a big announcement that we're going to make sure the states do what they've already done. So, great job, United States. Let's get rid of this. It's going to reload. And I just want to verify the numbers because I'm not perfect in any... Republic of Korea is 1,200. So all the states on that chart are already doing more than South Korea. And in terms of Puerto Rico, I got to say it's a territory, not a state. We're all going to die. The average per country is 618. So to get over that is no big deal whatsoever. But you got to remember that there's all these countries in Africa right there that are doing no testing whatsoever. There's no data on China. We don't know how many tests they're doing. So throw them in there. That could turn everything out of whack because they've been testing. Greenland, which is also our newest state soon, so that President Trump can claim he's had more states than anyone's ever had. It's not even close. Okay, so yeah, thanks. Airbus is getting me out of here. You're right, Airbus. It's pizza time. Guys, for the next broadcast, this works better on YouTube, we discovered last night. We've got a shorter delay on YouTube, so you're able to see what I say, what he says, what anybody says within about 10 seconds, and it makes the chat room make more sense to you when you watch it on YouTube. Plus, the chat seems to work better, and if you want to say something funny, the funny is closer to the actual real time that everybody else is saying. There's not that satellite delay, and so it works better for jokes. So if you value jokes, which I don't, then check that out. And the way to do it is go to youtube.com/KevinLeeFather right here. And I don't exist. Okay, because I forgot the LY in Kevin Lee. I do such good demonstrations. Let's zoom in here so you can see what I'm doing. Right here, you go subscribe, and then you click that little bell, and then you get a notification when we go live. And I try and let people know on Twitter when I'm going live. Don't forget, Billy Joel Madness is happening right now. They're done for today. A little later this afternoon, I will do a live update. So don't go looking to try and please me to get to score the final vote before I go live, unless you really want to know what songs won. But we're going to be doing that later on today. What is that? That's that one right there. Yeah, so this is the Billy Joel Madness right here. So we got a couple of, let's see, over on this division. Today we'll have results for All for Lena against Prelude Angry Young Men, and also Captain Jack against My Life. So those votes are done. But I'm going to be doing a live broadcast of Billy Joel Madness in case you're a Billy Joel fan. And we'll put up 2 new songs. And the 2 new songs, in case you're interested, which you're not, go ahead and log out, are going to be 52nd Street against Rosalinda's Eyes and Say Goodbye to Hollywood against Getting Closer. I've got favorites in both of those categories. I don't think either of those votes are going to be close. Maybe I'll do 4 votes instead. Okay. Is the header your impression of Trump? I don't know. What header? What do we... This right here? This highest amount of tests per Ivanka of any nation? Sure. Oh, Brother Mark, thank you very much. Yeah, subscribe on YouTube if you would. Hit that bell, and then you'll get notified. And we just come in here, and we watch the president, and we commiserate. Johns Hopkins? I get that wrong every single time. Green Room. YouTube. Is your header your impression of Trump? Oh, there is a story. I know what you're talking about. Let's go back to the YouTube page right here. And this is going to be it. Then I'm going to go get pizza because it's probably ready right now. So this picture right here is me standing on the podium at the Republican debates in 2016. That was in Vegas. And you had to have a little lanyard to get in. But being a white guy and having privilege, I was there with Kevin Lee daughter in Vegas, and I said, do you want to see what a debate is like? And she's like, yeah, Dad, that would be cool. So even though we didn't have lanyards or anything, I literally walked up the security guard and said, oh, I just want to show my daughter what it's like. And seeing as how we're white, he said, go on in, white people. And so we went up to the stage, and she's just sitting off screen. She's actually at Trump's podium. I am standing at Ben Carson's podium. That is on the stage at the Republican debate. That's the security that they had. Oh, sure, your daughter? Go right on in. So if I'm not going to say anything else because I'm going to get a call from the Secret Service, and I'm going to be like, you guys can't come in. You could be infected. That's quarantining, and that makes good sense, kids. Okay, so that's it for the broadcast. I got to go get pizza, guys. Be good. Stay healthy. We'll see you later on this afternoon. For whatever happens, we're going to do a Billy Joel update at some point, so stay tuned for that if you like Billy Joel. And if you don't, you're a terrible person. Okay, love you guys.